gonna be honest, I'm a little sad because I spent like half an hour trying to find my. I like this red sweater jacket that would have completed this because this is white, and I was like, well, okay, if I have the red jacket, I'm also wearing shorts right now. I got blue shorts, and I was like, okay, I got the straw hat. I just need the red sweater jacket, and the outfit's complete. But nope, couldn't find it. So this is what we're rocking with. So let's just continue the video. I'm going. Going through this list and remembering all the stuff that happens. I'll cheer up, but I'm gonna be honest. This hurt me. It hurt me. It hurt me not finding the red sweater. I was this close to being in full Luffy. I had the straw hat. I had the shorts and everything. But oh well. Anyways, so all right. So we're doing this list. Oh, I'm doing this list. There's no we. Solo. No. I'm doing this list because earlier, like I'm a little late to this, but a few days ago there was the global rankings for all One Piece characters in the entire series. So I thought to myself, I could either spend 5 hours ranking the top 100 One Piece characters, which was so tempting to do. I was so excited to do something like that. Or I was gonna be either doing that, which I'm too lazy to do that. I'm not gonna do that. Maybe in 5 years I'll do that or something. But I was like, nah, that's not gonna happen. And then I was like, okay, I could be a degenerate and I could go for clickbait and do top 10, top 15 One Piece females. But then I was like, I'm not gonna do that because that's cringe. And if I was gonna do that, I would do that like 100 top tens later. So I was like, okay, I can't do that, or I won't do that. I can do both options, but I'm not gonna do that. So then I was like, okay, what's next? So I was thinking in my head, I was like, top 10, top 15s. I was going through captains, I was going through crews, I was going through lots of things. And I was like, there's 10 straw hats. What am I even doing? Like, I should just do the straw hats. So, this is our first One Piece my first One Piece video. Um, you know what? I like saying us and we and our because the channel's for you guys too. So, this is our first One Piece video. It's so scuffed, but it's our first One Piece video and it's top 10. I got the list on my phone just because I have to double check just real quick when I'm going through these, but top 10 Straw Hats. I was gonna say members of the Straw Hat crew, and I was like, that's a mouthful. Top 10 Straw Hats. I'm looking at my list right now. I think I'm gonna piss some people off, but it should be okay. So number 10, we have Chopper. I don't think that's gonna piss too many people off. I think for anyone that really, really loves Chopper, they love him because he's cute. And don't get me wrong, I agree with that. I think this is also the first time I've been talking about One Piece, so I'll go into how I feel about the character, why they're there, and really, I've ranked this based on if one of these characters had like a portion of this arc that was just on them, how entertained would I be? How much of my attention, like for example, when Zoro gets lost in Wano or something, right? It's just Zoro. Or when Sanji has his whole moment in Whole Cake, it's just Sanji. Or when Robin is having her whole thing in Eni's lobby, like it's just Robin. Well, maybe the better example would have been like Water 7, right? It's just Robin. Or like when Nami has her whole thing. You know what I mean, right? Uh, in like uh, Orlon Park, the whole thing with just her. It's like how much of my attention is actually being, you know, how well does that grab my attention? That meaning, if a character has like just a solo thing to himself, how much do I care? That was taken into account. Another thing that was taken into account is the character's backstory. How much do I like it? How much do I feel like it makes the character interesting to me? Another thing I took into account was there's a lot of stuff here, but I'm just giving you insight. So in the comments afterwards, when you guys are roasting me, you understand why they're where they are. Another thing is that's taken into account is and I know I'm saying all this while I just said Chopper was number 10, but this is just to like warm you guys up, right? The appetizer, because you know this is all the explanation stuff, so I might as well tell you what number 10 is and then go into that. Um, Another thing is like if this character had a big moment, how hyped do I get? Like different levels of hype, right? So if Nami has like a big moment, how hyped do I get versus if, Franky gets a big moment, right? So stuff like that. So Chopper being at number 10, and I'll go through the pros and cons. So, and then I'll talk about like their position in the crew and how I feel about that. And, at the end of the day, all these characters are really important to the Straw Hat dynamic. Okay, so we're not going to take away from that. But the thing we got to consider is, for me, Chopper is the youngest of the crew, and usually the one that I feel like it shows in his character, right? Like Chopper is he usually has a level head, but he's still a child. I think Chopper canonically is 15. I don't know. I don't remember. You guys can correct me, but Chopper I think is 15. So with that into account, I kind of look at it as you're dealing with a character that he's a doctor. That's great, but I also feel like that got taken out. Well, not taken out, but like that got diminished. Not lately in Wano and stuff. That's been coming back, resurfacing. But with the introduction of Law, it kind of brought a different aspect of like, well, we have another doctor in the whole mix, and it's not really fair to take away points from Chopper for that. It's just a matter of perspective of like Chopper has had some very big moments as the crew's doctor, but at the same time, with Law there, you kind of see it as Law is a more proficient doctor in terms of how effective, his devil fruit is broken, so it's unfair, and all that stuff. And that notches Chopper a little down, even though it's unfair to do so, it knocks him a little down. But the main reason why he's here is due to just immaturity. I don't mind Chopper. I think he's fun. I think he's cute, sure. I think he's fun. I think he's great. I'm gonna put the hat down real quick. With all that in mind, like he's a great character. And he's lovable to have there, but I think moments where if one of the crew is in danger or something, I think with those, Chopper is at his weakest because he feels kind of he feels as though it's out of everyone in the crew, he's the one you'd have to worry about if he got into a scuffle, right? Like out of all the crew members, I think like the one that I would fear for their life the most if they got into trouble would be Chopper. That doesn't mean that he has to be the worst because of that or any of that. And don't look at it as like I'm saying he's the worst Straw Hat. I'm just saying in terms of my preferences, he's the bottom because of all those factors. You have to take all of those into account. It does become it's a little tough, right? It's a little tough. My favorite moments with Chopper though are when he is very level-headed, like surprisingly mature compared to some of the other crew members, right? Like one of my favorite moments is when it's a first time as a crew member. We're in Alabasta, and he and Zoro they have a pretty good conversation. Like Chopper, he's what at that age? I don't know how old he was, like 13 or something. But he's asking a good question to Zoro. He's like, "Why do you guys follow Luffy?" And this is when Luffy's lost and stuff, and he's just like Chopper's asking an important question. It's not that he's questioning his faith in Luffy. It's just he's asking Zoro a question to try and like really understand like what's the whole philosophy here? Like what are we like striving for? Why does Luffy, you know, why is he our leader, right? And it's just that moments like that, or like moments where you have that growth where you have that, and then you have like Punk Hazard, where the kids are crying and everything, and then that's the first time you hear Chopper say like he's the man that's going to be the king of the pirates. Our captain can beat anybody. This Caesar guy is no problem. Like don't worry, believe in Luffy because he will be king of the pirates. Seeing that kind of stuff of like those are both moments where he's the adult of the situation acting as well. In this Zoro situation, he's not in the adult situation, but he's acting like an adult, asking the real questions to Zoro. Like those two moments, not only do they show a great amount of growth for his character, but they also show like how mature he can be despite his age, right? So those are my positive with Chopper. However, he's still at the bottom, so it is what it is. Because I just believe that everyone else on the crew on this list, I feel like can take care of themselves much better and don't get outshined, or you don't have to worry as much. And that helps as an audience member. Okay, and then number 9 we have Franky. Super. So Franky's number 9. I don't think many people were expecting Franky to be high up there, so number 9 is probably not a big surprise for a lot of people. But Franky, to me, I really like Franky. He feels like one of the caretakers of the crew most of the time, and I love his gimmicks and stuff, but Franky doesn't bring a whole lot in terms of. I mean, he complains about it himself when it comes to wanted posters and stuff. Franky, in terms of the power that what he could bring to the crew, he doesn't bring it as much as you expect he could. One thing I love about Franky though is that he's literally a cyborg. You have a sci-fi cyborg in a pirate-based anime. Somehow it just works. And the Sunny, I love the way where you have Franky's moments of almost like being an elder brother or a father in a crew, but with that awkward funness. Like you can have him play volleyball with Luffy, Ussop, and the rest, but also like you have moments where like I love moments with Franky and Luffy. I think the most like Franky and Luffy. I think have the best dynamic with Franky. Like Franky, all the dynamics he has. I think Franky and Luffy have the best because you have moments where like Franky will like go to Luffy and be like, "Hey, this is a friend of uh oh snap, I forgot his name. No, this is a friend of God damn shoot uh oh, I'm gonna hate myself in editing. I'm gonna hate myself editing this. But like in Fishman Island, when he's explaining like, oh, we got to coat the ship and everything, and then like you know what the moment is when Luffy's like, oh, okay, so like, um, it's a cousin of Frankie's like Frankie's mentor. Oh, shoot. Oh, he has such a normal name too. It's not hard to forget. It's just it's been a while since I've seen Water 7. What is it? Oh man. Oh, I'm gonna hate myself. I'm gonna hate myself after that. Hold on. 1 second. I can't let this go. I can't let this go. Frankie, teacher. Bro, that's so disappointing. Tom, how did I forget about Tom? Oh my God. Okay, yeah. So Tom is like when I think it's Tom's cousin or something, or his brother. I think it's Tom's brother. And then he's basically explaining like, oh, Tom's brother is like, uh, gonna coat the ship for us and everything. And he's like, oh, okay, I get it. Like Tom's coding, we're coding Tom's to help the ship do whatever, blah blah blah. And it just sounds so weird. And then Frankie's like, uh-huh, yeah, yeah, good enough, close enough. Like I love Frankie for those moments. Like I think he helps a lot when it comes to the crew's longevity in terms of like helps like if everyone in the crew were different parts, like some are like the screws, others are like the actual pipes and stuff, and you're making like a giant like structure, like a skeleton. I'd say like Frankie is one of the screws. Like he's one of the ones that can like joint like these big pieces together, and I think he helps a lot when it comes to like those bigger players. I like his mostly his interactions with Luffy, but besides that, there's not a whole lot for Frankie to do, so that's why he's at number 9. Okay, I'm gonna have to take my hat off for this one because this one's gonna piss a lot of people off. So number 9 is number sorry, not number 9, excuse me. Number 8. Number 8 is Nami. I'm gonna wait for you to finish your insults because I know they're yep, yep, you're insulting me, yep, and it's yep, you're pissed, yep, you're mad, okay. Okay, you done? Okay, good. So number 9, number 9, number 8 is Nami. Okay, so Nami's number 8. Here's why. Okay, I don't hate Nami. I don't really hate any of the Straw Hats. My only issues with Nami is that I feel like my only issues, but okay, I like Nami's progression. I like her origin. I think her origin is wonderful. I think in terms of how it builds for her character and everything. Like I like Choppers. Choppers makes me cry. Frankie's makes me like cry as well. Everyone's origin makes me cry in the Straw Hats, right? Nami to me, I look at it as like you have Nochiko and you have Nami, right? Nochiko is like the situation where I look at Nochiko and I'm like, this is what Nami could do, like this is what Nami could take, this angle and like mature in this way. By the way, Nochiko is one of the most underrated female characters in One Piece, to me, in my opinion. So it makes it actually worse for Nami because I look at Nami, I'm like, you could be more like your sister. You could be more like your sister in terms of, this like hyper instinct to always go after wealth. And don't get me wrong, I get it. The money makes the world go round. She saw that herself, right? It's still, frankly, I think it's sad because it's kind of a weird form of PTSD. It's still like that you have all that, like the fact you didn't have enough money to like do all of this and you lost your mother basically due to that. You look at it as like money still makes the world go round, even though Arlong got defeated. Like you still have that tick. And it's sad. I know I don't always look at it like that, and I know people don't look at Nami that way, but I'm just saying it's kind of, you could theorize that's a thing. Um, but my issues with Nami are not that. My issues with Nami is not really that she's a gold digger either. I just feel like Nami to me kind of loses perspective on like everything when it comes to. I feel like usually when you have like Zoro makes a good point or something. Sanji makes a good point sometimes or something. Like Usopp can go into some deeper shit and whatever. But with Nami, it's like her soft spot is when it comes to kids and money and greed and all that stuff. But it's like I don't feel like that fits and is enough when you have all this like extra stuff. When you have all the stuff that happens, I feel like Nami has had the least amount of moments where out of the main cast, the main five, like the East Blue, right? Out of the ones from the East Blue, Nami has had the least amount of moments that made me go like, you know what? You've developed into a really cool character. Like that doesn't happen as much with her. So I'm like, you're number eight because of that. And I'll go into why everyone ahead of Nami, who usually isn't, is ahead of Nami for me. So that's Nami. I'm going to leave it at that because I think with going to the rest of the list, I'll be able to explain better as to why these people are ahead of Nami. The main one is number seven, which is Brook. Brook, most people would never put Brook ahead of Nami. I put Brook ahead of Nami for multiple reasons. One, I think the experience that's brought in with Brook is great. I think what Brook has gone through is the toughest out of all the members of the Straw Hat. Easily the toughest. He literally lost his life and then came back. So he's lost literally everything and then came back from it. So Brook to me is number seven because while all the crew members have you know, a tough time, a tough origin, all that stuff. With If you're comparing Brook to Nami, I see Brook has moments of like you can have moments of intrigue where Brook will have history with a character, right? Because of his age. He'll know of things. Um he'll be able to appreciate the crew for what it is in a moment better. Like he will I think Brook has a better outlook on everything than Nami does, in my opinion, just how I look at it. I think when I look at Nami, I see there's still a lot of room for improvement, and that kind of sometimes tests my patience because I'm like, you should like ease up on this, or you should just kind of not be stubborn and just look at it like this. Like with Brook, I see it as like Brook at least he brings comic relief and stuff, but at the same time he also has these moments of like almost like scariness. And also Brook's design is way more intriguing. I think we can all be honest. Like Brook's design is way more interesting than Nami's. So that's those stuff taken into account and what he brings in terms of like what he brings to the crew by having, lost the crew and then, appreciating the crew that he has now, appreciating the Straw Hats, he can better like encompass what the value of the things in this story are, opposed to Nami, who I feel like still has a lot of room to really like change. Which I know Oda, because of his uh, Oda tends to choose world building over character development usually, so that's probably not, Nami's not going to change a whole lot, but she does have moments where you have that sensitivity, but also like the almost annoying levels. Like, look at it like this: the same way Zoro looks at Nami is kind of the same way I look at Nami, right? So take it as you will. I respect Nami for being part of the Straw Hats, but I see it as this woman kind of sometimes gets under my nerve. So that's why, you have number 8 as Nami, number 7 as Brook, and number 6 we have Jinbe. Jinbe is he's been with the crew the least, and based on what he's done in the crew so far, you would argue he doesn't deserve to be number 6. But I'm also judging them based on the character itself. So Jinbei is the only character that most of the time with the Straw Hats, when they're part of the Straw Hats, when they're introduced, they're already a part of the Straw Hats. Or basically, at the arc they're introduced, they join the Straw Hats. But Jinbei is different. Jinbei joined way after he was first introduced. Like when he was first introduced, well, first off, actually, when he was first referenced was way before we even got into the Grand Line. Well, not way before, but before we got into the Grand Line, and then we meet him like much later, and then he joins the crew even like way later than that. So he's been on a weird journey, but I like Jinbei because of the Sun Pirates. I like him because of the Sun Pirates. I like him because of Ace. I like him because of Marineford, Whitebeard, and just the relationship he had for Luffy in general. Keep in mind, Jinbei was technically the only Straw Hat that was able to be there for Luffy during Ace's death. So there's a lot that I feel like Luffy owes to Jinbei, right? Like Jinbei, without actually being a part of the crew, has done more for Luffy than I feel like a lot of the crew members or a lot of the Straw Hats wish they could have done for Luffy. Because at the end of the day, all these characters, all the Straw Hats, they care about Luffy. They care about Luffy not as like okay, he's our leader, he's our a commander or whatever, a captain. Like we have to you know please him and whatever. It's like, or like, have him be, happy with us or something. Like, oh, I got to gain favor with Luffy. It's like, no, it's just Luffy's our friend. He's a guy that encouraged us to follow our dreams. We owe a lot to him, but most of all, he's our friend. We really care about Luffy. And the moment where Ace dies, and he's counting down, the fingers of like all the, friends he has and the crew members he has. Jinbei's there and gets to see how much Luffy cares. You know what I mean? Like he gets to see that for himself, and that's I'm not gonna lie, that hit me in a hit me in a place. It hit me pretty hard. So it hit me because not only did Luffy know he had friends, but he also like Jinbei got to see how much that mattered to him. And he knew, like he was like, look at what you have left. And, Luffy immediately without hesitation went to his crew. And I think that's one of the things that made Jinbei really want to become part of the Straw Hats in my headcanon, because he got to see that much like my captain, who really cared about people and like us as the fisherman and his crew and us as his friends, even with Arlong being the way he was still one of the Sun Pirates, and he was cared for. Um, Jinbei sees that in Luffy, and he sees more than just that because I mean, with Ace and everything Ace explained to Jinbei, and the relationship of how like Jinbei was friends with he was one of the uh, he was teamed up with Whitebeard, and then Ace and Jinbei fights, and then that's how Ace meets Whitebeard. But regardless, Jinbei and Ace go way back, and there's a lot. And like you look through Jinbei's history, a lot of it can be attributed to how he values Luffy, and that's pretty cool for a character, especially for a Straw Hat. Like an underlying, yeah, like an underlying message here in terms of how I value Straw Hats would also be how they value Luffy. Because Luffy is the captain, but also the main character, but he's the captain. When we're talking about Straw Hats, it's pretty important to see how Luffy affects those characters. That could be another thing with Nami. Like, Nami really respects Luffy, but at the same time, you have moments where I feel like um, Nami's loyalty to Luffy is never really questionable. It's not questionable, and it's never questionable for any of the characters. Um, at some moments, you have moments where Chopper may think like his belief will maybe be weaker, but that's only because he's a kid. You know, he's emotional. So at the end of the day, it's not like he doesn't have as much faith in Luffy as anyone else. No, he does. It's just at the end of the day, a kid's a kid. You know, you can have faith in that your father's gonna make it, but or your brother or your friend's gonna make it, but like. You know, if you hear like, oh, he's been knocked out or he might be dead or defeated, you know, you're still gonna cry if you're like 13, 14. Right? Like you're gonna be like, oh no, like it's horrible, right? And you know, maybe not every 13, 14, 15 year old will do that, but you know, one like Chopper who's a little sensitive to things, right? Will probably, right? He cares about Luffy a lot. And they're the only friends, you know, the Straw Hats are the only friends that Chopper has. Anyways, I'm reverting back, but basically my point is, you know, with Nami, with Chopper or whatever, they all have loyalty to Luffy, but I see the way how Jinbe's grows and where it comes from for Luffy is another big thing. Granted, I will say, out of all the Straw Hats, there's one or two particularly that are extra like loyal to Luffy in a certain sense. One in particular, I think we all know who it is, but we'll get to that character when we get there. But it doesn't go for all the characters, but for Jinbei, just seeing how it grew to that point and where it comes from is really special. And to see that, like, I mean, the connection that Jinbei has for that story. And like, I never thought about it too, because when Jinbei was going into the Straw Hats and like we knew he was gonna be a part of them, I was like, well, what is he gonna do? Being the helmsman, it actually makes perfect sense being a fishman. Like, I think it's a really good position in my head because I'm thinking like no one knows the seas better, right, than like a fishman. No one knows the currents better than a fishman. No one knows how to guide a ship, you know, through all the ocean than like a half fish, half man, right? Like Oda was pretty clever. Oda was pretty clever. He got me with that one. So that's the bottom five. Now we're gonna go on to the top five. Okay, so the top five is gonna start out with another kind of controversial one. I don't hate this character. I don't hate any of these characters, like I said. And I do think that this character in particular will actually cause more commotion than even Nami. Sanji is number five. Okay, first off, I love Sanji. I love Sanji. To me, Sanji is the most responsible of all the Straw Hats. If looking at it like this, if Luffy gets defeated or if Zoro gets defeated, I'm still not worried. But if Sanji gets defeated, I'm worried. If in a big battle, whether it's Enies Lobby, whether it's if they were in Marineford or whatever, in a big battle, if Luffy's been defeated, I'm like, okay, that's fine. You know, like he'll come back, he's resilient. If Zoro's been defeated, I'll be like, that's fine, he'll come back, he's resilient. Anyways, right? Like, as long as Sanji's still there, everyone can still be alive by the time those two come back. But if Sanji gets knocked out too, then you're all doomed. That's how I kind of look at it. Like I'm like Sanji is the perfect last resort. He's the perfect third man. Like he's the perfect out of the monster trio. The reason why Sanji's there is not just because he's just as strong as Zoro or you know like equal like level in league to where Zoro and Luffy is, and now like Jinbe, right? You have like a monster quad like uh, monster quartet, a monster quartet, you know. So it's or a quartet is a quartet four? I think a quartet's four people, right? Or is it five? I don't know, but you know, like with them, Sanji to me brings out a lot. But however, I do have issues with Sanji in terms of how he's used. Now that's not the character's fault. That's not the character's fault, but it is part of an issue when you have, you know, situations like moments where it's supposed to be Sanji's moment, but he doesn't bring it. You know, Oda doesn't bring out more from him than I feel like he should. You know, he should bring out more, but he doesn't. Now, again, that shouldn't be the character's fault, but it's kind of what the character is, right? You have moments where, you know, whole cake, you expect Sanji to bring in more when really he ends up playing like more of a support role to some of the other characters. Like look at it like this: Zoro is meant to be like Zoro's moments are usually just Zoro. Like Zoro has when Zoro's gonna have a moment, Zoro takes in. He goes in and he does damage. One thing I like about Sanji, but also it's kind of a double-edged sword, is that when he has a moment, it's usually to protect someone. Unless there's very rare occasions like when Diablo Jambe was revealed for the first time, right? Diablo Jambe, when it was revealed for the first time, that was him just, kicking ass. So that's fine. But usually Sanji is saving someone, which is part of his nature because he's a hero, he's kindness, all that stuff, right? In a sense, he protects people more than say someone like Zoro, right? Zoro doesn't really his end goal is not to protect people. His end goal is kind of just to defeat them, right? While Sanji's is a little different. And I like to think that Luffy's like the happy medium between the two. Like he'll protect people, but also like wants to defeat people at the same time. Like he's like both of them. So, but I love Sanji a lot. I think the way his observation hockey and his intuitiveness in terms of how he looks at the battlefield and stuff, that's also another thing. Like he can keep everyone safe because his personality works well with his proficiency to observation, him being a cook, being aware of everything going on around him, being able to keep everything organized. Sanji is a really, really, and I cannot stress it enough, really, really important character to the Straw Hats. Um, However, I do think Oda underuses him and doesn't like for what the character is supposed to be. I think Sanji comes a little lower sometimes, and when Sanji has an epic moment, it makes me go like, "Damn, let's go!" But it doesn't make me go like ballistic. It doesn't make me go ballistic, and I feel like that's a sign that maybe we could, or Oda, sorry, could do a little more. Like I feel like there's still kind of a roof there, and that needs to be broken. Which I think in the recent chapter, because we're at chapter 1015. So I'm not spoiling anything, but I'm just saying for the timeline, if you're seeing this, we're at chapter 1015. At that point, it seems like Sanji has now got an opportunity, so we'll see where it goes. But for now, I think there's been that roof there, and that's not fair, but unfortunately, that's what makes him at number five. And I know that means that there's four characters. Usually there's like three or two characters above Sanji, but there's four in this case just because these other two characters, number four and number three, typically wouldn't be above Sanji, but because of what you would expect them to be and what they actually are, I think they perceive what they actually are or expected to be. Like I think they're better than what you expect, and that's why they're above there. Sanji, I have expectations. He doesn't reach them. Well, he doesn't surpass them. He reaches them, but he doesn't surpass them very often. And I feel like that's an issue. So that's Sanji. Number four is Nico Robin. Nico Robin. Okay, Robin to me had the best moment of joining the crew because it was so funny. Because I was like, I still remember it. I'm trying to think to myself. Like, keep in mind, most of these characters I've known my entire life. Like, I may have my issues with Nami, right? But Nami, like, I knew about Nami because I watched One Piece at like the age of like 4, right? So I've known Nami, the character, for like 15, almost 16 years, right? So that's a lot of years, right? So I'm very well aware of like basically my entire life, like these characters and stuff and how they were organized and how they've kind of grown and everything and the situations they've gone through and how that, my opinions of them have changed. Robin was the latest one that had joined the crew at that time, and I remember thinking to myself, I was like, this is so funny because I you never would have saw it coming because they're a villain at first, and then it just out of nowhere pops out like, oh, okay, sure, fine, you can you can join. I mean, Luffy being Luffy, I wasn't too surprised. It wasn't out of character, but I saw it as like, okay, this kind of gives me the vibe of like, well, okay, fine, like this is the kind of person Luffy is. He'll let a person join, but one thing I found interesting about Luffy is that I don't know, it's usually by happenstance. Luffy is able to draw a person, draw out their dreams, right? And one thing that makes the Straw Hats stronger than most crews and superior than most crews is that the Straw Hats have their own ambitions, right? They have their own ambitions. They're not just blindly following their whole life and passion to Luffy. They have their own ambitions. If Luffy falls, their life is not over, right? Robin was one of those ones where you didn't know what her dream was, but you kind of had an understanding roughly when she was explaining Pluton and everything. And she was explaining to Luffy like how, my life is over and it doesn't really have a whole lot of value. And we see later on that actually was a heavy foreshadowing for what she goes through. Luffy, she puts it as like, "Oh, you broke my heart," but Luffy basically, Luffy says, "Well, you're being dumb. You're an idiot, right?" So it brings out like the will to live out of someone. And it was funny because originally you couldn't figure out what Robin's goal was, but when you finally see her story and everything, and you see how pivotal and important she is to everything, but also I love the idea that like she is the well, not the oldest anymore because Brook beat her out, and then I'm pretty sure Jinbe is older, and I think Franky might be just as old, if not older. So she's not older anymore, but she was kind of the one that had like the best understanding of what the world around us was. Like, keep in mind, when Luffy back in Eddie's lobby, it was revealed like, oh, okay, he knew Shanks or his dad was Dragon or whatever. It seemed like Robin was the most collected but understood the weight of what that meant for each situation, right? Like, like this is at the same time where Luffy, like, it was revealed like, oh, Garp, is his grandfather, right? And like, I feel like Robin had the best understanding of that and like really with her character you get a sense of kind of what it feels like to read One Piece as an adult, right? Like, or as more or less, you kind of get that understanding of like, okay, Robin is seeing this like, okay, this is fun, this is cool and all, but like, at the end of the day, like how she sees Luffy, how she sees Zoro, how she sees it as an adult, and it's a kind of I love that perspective because you have like moments where like I remember when they got into the new world for the first time, like they get a call and it's a distress call from Punk Hazard, and Luffy's like, "Oh, we should go help them." Well, before he even answers, and then Robin's like, "Wait, you should stop that because." Or you should think about this first because 50% or 90% or 80%, whatever percentage she said, of those distress calls are traps. And he was like, but then he grabbed it anyways, like it's not that Robin hates Luffy, that part of Luffy. She actually likes it, but she still mentions like, well, you should think about this first. But regardless, my captain will still do that because that's Luffy, that's his nature, right? Um, with what Robin brings, if she's to defend the idea of why Robin's above Sanji, above Jinbe, above Brook, well, above Nami, all that stuff. Robin to me has the best or clear understanding of what um, what it means to face consequences. Right now, granted, she's also fairly uh, fairly paranoid because of stuff like those consequences. At least when it came to the Marines at a certain point, but after Enies Lobby that changed. Robin to me is like the perfect advisor for these kinds of situations. Perfect advisor, perfect like person to really understand. Like next to, I would say Zoro, she's the best when it comes to understanding consequence and giving that very clear to the characters around us. But I think Zoro is also just as good, if not better sometimes, because he understands like also the inner workings of being a pirate. Like what the like Zoro moments. I'll talk about it when we get to Zoro. But Zoro, to give two examples, Zoro when Usopp left, and then Zoro when they're about to fight Kaido and Sanji left. Zoro in both situations explained the impact of what that did, right? Usopp leaving was huge. Like we all know the whole situation behind that. But Sanji leaving when they have to face Kaido is no joke. Like you have that moment where Zoro's explaining that we're not, we're in the big leagues now. We're at the point where we can't turn back even if we would want to. Like earlier, maybe we could have turned back if we were in the Grand Line the first half. But in the new world, we've already defeated Doflamingo. We've stop the smile like production. We've already pissed Kaido off. It doesn't matter where we go, we have to face this. So Zoro's like, for him to leave, Sanji, referring to Sanji, for him to leave, that's not our problem. Like that's actually I don't know. At that time, did Zoro know Sanji left? I think so, something along those lines. But Zoro is just as good when it comes to consequence. But I feel like he does it in a more cynical way. He does it in a more like heavy, like extreme, like heavy duty, like traditional samurai, live by the code kind of way. You know what I mean? While Robin speaks it more as just like a calm adult who's looking at it rationally. So I like characters like that, and that's why Nami is above here because I think what Nami can offer is way more than what, say, Nami? No, Robin. What Robin can offer is way more than what Nami can offer, or like Franky or Chopper or like Brook in terms of the situation, right? Um, Now, whether she's above Sanji, it just kind of becomes that the matter of what I expected from Robin was nowhere near what I actually got from Robin in this series. But what I got from Sanji, I was like, well, it's kind of like what I expected. So that's kind of, it's more like, well, if you beat my expectations, you deserve to be higher on the list than if you were just meeting the expectation, right? Makes sense. All right, cool. Number three, number three is, oh, well, I mean, you could probably figure out number one and number two are like what everyone's number one and number two really end up being, but number three is Usopp. Usopp, I'm sorry. Like I know there's moments where people can say Usopp is annoying, Usopp has done this, and don't get me wrong, I was always annoyed with the Usopp leaving, and then when he comes back, he doesn't expect like he has to face any consequence or like an apology or something. But I'm sorry, I never get more excited. Well, that's not true. One and two, I get excited, but outside of number one and number two, you know who they are. It's no spoiler, but yeah, number three, like out of all the Straw Hats, like when they have a moment, I get the most hyped. It's Usopp. Usopp easily. The most hype I think I can remember being in a One Piece related like animated like kind of moment was in Stampede. If you haven't seen Stampede, uh, skip like 2 minutes ahead. But real quick, well, actually just a minute. Don't worry about it. It's not a huge thing, but there's a moment in the final fight where they're facing against Bullet. Luffy is facing Bullet at the final moment, and Usopp has a small thing that helps Luffy win. I was way more excited about that small thing helping Luffy win. I guess this isn't really a spoiler, but the small thing that helped Luffy win than it was about Luffy actually beating Bullet. Because it was that moment where Usopp got to say this is the role of a sniper, right? Like Usopp when he's cool is so cool. Like Usopp, I think one of my favorite moments is when we're in Dressrosa and he's like, even if you don't acknowledge what I've done for you, I want to. Or like my favorite moment is like when he's like shooting from afar and he has his first moment of observation hockey. Like when he's shooting and he's like, even if you're not aware of the way I've helped you, this is more than enough. Like I just want to try this hard to help you, Luffy, to get to your goal, right? Like Luffy isn't even aware of what happened. Luffy and Law are just confused. They're like, I guess she passed out. Like Candy just passed out. It's like, okay, I don't get it. And then Luffy continues, but Usopp, he takes so much pride in what he did, and that's like one of those things that I can't help but like get giddy about when I'm like when I'm like you have a character that like can get scared over like a small little crocodile when he's faced like big giant monsters and stuff, but he gets like scared over the smallest things compared to all the other things you face, right? In context, but like can have such a big moment and feel pride about it. Another big moment I love about Usopp is like his friendship with Luffy, right? Like Usopp, it looks at Luffy as like Luffy is the one thing he wish he could be. Like everything Usopp wishes he could be, Luffy is, right? And he's like Luffy's best friend. And I think without a doubt, the person that like values Luffy in terms of as a friend more than anyone in the crew is Usopp, without a doubt. I mean, they're the same age, and it's so funny. I just look at it as like I mean, when you think of it like this, right? Usopp has unlocked observation hockey at the age of 19, where post or like before the time skip, Sanji never unlocked observation hockey. Like Zoro kind of had a hint of hockey. I don't know if we could say any moment of observation hockey, but possibly. Um, so Usopp's doing pretty well for himself. I look at it as like another big moment I love when it comes to the friendship is like back in Alabasta when he's talking about like don't laugh at Luffy's dream. Luffy, like the one thing I'll let you like spit on me or do whatever, but you cannot laugh at my friend's dream because I will kick your ass if you do. I looked at it as like moments like that is what makes me love Usopp so much, and why I have to put him at number three. I put him above Sanji because I'm like, there's moments where I'm like, holy shit. But I put him above Robin because Robin, while she brings the like the hardcore facts and stuff, and I love like she just has such a huge importance where I never expected that from that character. Usopp brings that and then some. I'm like, I know you will have more and more of this. Like Usopp is God Usopp. I mean, God is Usopp has one of the highest bounties in the crew, and it doesn't make any sense. It's so funny. I'm like, I love that you can do that. So for Usopp being number three, I think it's a no-brainer. He has to be number three for me because of moments like that and the impact they have. Like I can't have a moment with Sanji. I will be honest. Looking back on this list, I do feel like I put Sanji a little too low. I should have probably maybe put him fourth. Maybe it's hard to say. It's a little interchangeable between Robin and Sanji, but Usopp is number three. I felt it. I was like, I feel like when it comes to how I feel about Usopp sometimes, I'm like, I don't get that from Sanji. But which, I mean, Sanji's comic relief, he brings a lot of fun to it, but still. And then number two, I mean, it could have been Luffy. It could have been Luffy, but I think, in my head I was like, there's no way. There's no way Luffy's not number one and Zoro's like not number two. Like listen, I love Zoro. Zoro is number two easily. I love Zoro so much, but I was like, you're not Luffy. You're not Luffy. There's a lot to it. It's more than just like, okay, you're the captain and all that stuff. Like when it comes to Luffy, I'm like, there's more. It's more than just that. He is a lot. Like from what I expect from an anime character, he brings so much more. I'm like, okay, well, Zoro, you're number two. Now, I've talked about Zoro a few times during this, and I think it's easy to say that I've, I've kind of dabbled a little bit with Zoro already in terms of what I like about him, but Zoro to me, the one thing I love about Zoro is that Zoro is one of the first times you have a supporting character. The more One Piece goes on, the more you wonder to yourself how crazy it is that Zoro really could have his own anime. Low key, he could have his own anime. He could. Like, Zoro brings in the amount of stuff we've seen from Zoro and stuff. You see, like, Zoro reminds me of, like, almost like a Guts kind of thing. In terms of like the kind of shit he goes through. Now, granted, it's not the same level as Guts, not even close. But like Guts literally has his whole body broken and everything, and still fights. But Zoro gives me those kinds of vibes sometimes when he goes through shit, and it's just like every time Zoro fights, for some reason, Oda's like, listen, Zoro. I mean, I think it's pretty safe to say that Zoro is Oda's favorite character, favorite Straw Hat, because the way he just hypes this man up is crazy. But he also low key hates him because he'll make him go through the worst imaginable pain and then still persevere. I mean, right now, at the moment in the manga, Zoro is basically in a full cast. Spoilers, but I mean, he's in a cast right now, and like he looks like a cross. It's so funny. If you've seen the manga, it's funny. It's not a huge spoiler, but he looks really funny right now. I'm loving the interaction between Sanji and Zoro right now. I think it's really hilarious. But that's another thing. I love Zoro and Sanji together. I think Zoro, in terms of interaction with characters in the Straw Hat crew, I love the most, even almost as much as Luffy. Really, if I'm being honest, number one came into a competition between Zoro and Luffy, and it came to which character do I like most. I looked through all the factors. I was like, okay, the origin, honestly, Luffy has a better origin. Luffy has a better origin. I think Zoro's has not aged very well. I think he needs to have something, and it's got to be related to Wano or something. We still don't have anything, and personally, I think when it comes to Zoro's, it needs to age better. We need to add something to it. So, but like Sanji's, like wasn't really. It was the same thing, but then Whole Cake, like it changed everything. You were like, okay, Sanji's is amazing, when it comes to his backstory. But now Zoro, I feel like he needs that extra thing. You need to give him something else. So origin-wise, Luffy was better. And then I looked at like character interactions with the Straw Hats and stuff. I was like, well, Luffy's is still better, but Zoro was close. Zoro was close because I talked about like Zoro's interaction with basically all the Straw Hats. I talked about how he views Nami. I talked about how him and Chopper had that interaction. Brook and him had a good moment when it came to swords. Like when he lost his sword, Brook was there and like honored the understanding of like as a fellow swordsman, he understood what Zoro was going through, and Zoro appreciated that. He was like, "Thank you." He had a funeral for his blade and everything. And with Frankie, I mean, I don't know. They haven't had really too many moments, but I think Zoro and Frankie have some fun. Um, I explained Chopper, how Zoro had an interaction with Chopper, but I also explained with all the other characters, I explained their loyalty to Luffy. So I was like, well, Luffy has to beat out, but Zoro was very close. Zoro and Sanji, I think it goes hand in hand. Zoro and Robin is very funny because I remember early on I was like, well, these two, because Robin looked at all the other characters and the interactions right when she joined, and then Zoro was the only one that was like, this woman. And then like Robin gave like the interesting like the look of like intrigue of like and I was like wait, what's going on here? So I keep in mind I think I'm like 8 or 7 when I'm seeing this. I'm like my imagination is like, wait a second. Well, I don't know. Does this mean something? But no, Oda doesn't do that kind of stuff. But regardless, and now I mean law exists, so that kind of changes everything. Um, but I look at it as like Robin and Zoro have some fun interactions in terms of like I talked about how they both have rational aspects of like they're kind of like there to level out the crew, and like really give them perspective on consequence. Like Zoro's more cynical about it, but they both do that. And then obviously with Luffy, oh yeah, and when Usopp, like Zoro and Usopp have some of the funniest interactions. I still will never forget the the what is it, the Soge sword, the Soge King blade. It's like shing shing shing. It's so funny. Um, but Zoro easily has the best interactions when it comes to Luffy because he out of everyone in the crew, he understands Luffy the best. Like he knows him the best, and he's like, okay, this guy may be an idiot, but we gotta follow him. And the moments where Zoro is showing like one of the moments that I'm never gonna forget, obviously, is when he offers his head. He's like, this man will be the greatest, like he'll be the king of the pirates without a doubt. But I will become the world's greatest swordsman. And I hope that that can be a fair trade-off. Like when he says that to Kuma, I'm like, you know how much like cojones you need to say stuff like this? Like he knows he will die. He knows he will die, and he's still saying this. I'm like, this is nuts. This is absolutely nuts. But number one, I'm gonna say that Zoro and Luffy are gonna kind of like be mixed when I'm talking about them. But I'm gonna move on to Luffy because now I'm in the mood. And I'm gonna talk about Luffy. I think I talked about Zoro enough. When I'm talking about Luffy, though. There's something you got to keep in mind when it comes to Luffy being number one. It's not just because he's the captain. It's also because Luffy brings out every one member of the crew he brings in. It helps Luffy's character even more because you understand more and more why he's a good captain, right? So Luffy, we talked about Zoro, right? And one moment I was gonna like finish off when it came to Zoro was Mihawk, and we talked about how like okay, Mihawk, Zoro has multiple times put his pride on the line for Luffy, and Mihawk has been there twice, where Zoro lost to Mihawk the first time, and then he still like begged Luffy, like he promised Luffy, he vowed to him he wouldn't ever lose again, and he said, "Is that okay for you? Future King of the Pirates, all that stuff." Like that wasn't that wasn't dishonoring himself. It was just like it was a matter of like he felt shame upon himself, but also like he felt shame that he failed Luffy, and like Mihawk, he acknowledges that and he sees Luffy and he's like, "What's your dream?" And then Luffy's like, "I'm gonna be king of the pirates." And then he's like, you see, like Mihawk has a pause. He's like, "Wait, so?" Because he's just faced Zoro, who he now knows his convictions. It's not just words. Like he knows he's going to actually do what he says, right? Like he's not just gonna want to be the greatest swordsman. He is going to try to be the greatest swordsman, and he'll get damn well close. So when he knows that this is his leader, his captain, and he's saying he's going to be king of the pirates, Mihawk can't help but laugh. He's like, "You guys are crazy. You guys are crazy. Like you're actually insane." And that's the kind of thing that Luffy brings out of someone. And then it's also like we haven't heard it from everyone in the crew yet, but mostly everyone has basically said that one big moment of like Luffy will be the king of the pirates, that kind of thing. Um, Luffy to me has gone through a lot of things where it's like you could have Ace's death. You could have, you know, all the stuff that's happened to him, like all the like Luffy has seen some pretty goddamn horrible things. Because if you really put it into perspective, Luffy's childhood, like Ace and him and Sabo, like they faced like pirates, gangsters and stuff. He's seen Shanks lose his arm when Luffy was like the age of what? Luffy was probably like 5 or 6 when he saw that. You know, ever since he saw like lose his arm, he knew like this is the kind of person Luffy is. Luffy, at the age of 6, saw someone he cared about lose their arm and said, and cried and said, Shanks, you lost your arm." And Shanks said, "Yeah, it's just an arm, though." You know, Shanks. I think one thing about Luffy is that we have to give a lot of credit to Shanks because I think Shanks saw something in Luffy and then he showed him the reality of the world when he lost his arm and he like basically showed him like the reason why he lost his arm was he wanted to save Luffy and he could have done that without losing his arm. But regardless, he did that to kind of show Luffy like this is the kind of price you pay when going out to sea. Luffy, at the age of 17, punched a man who had a curtain of spikes, and he punched him with just his fist. Now, keep in mind, he's not impervious to getting stabbed. He stabbed him, it stabbed right into his knuckles, and he still punched with full force. Luffy is the type of guy that took a shark jamming at his crotch, like biting his crotch, and still slammed his head like 4 stories down. He took that like a champ. Luffy is the type of guy, and I could keep going on and on and on, who's taken a poison hook from a guy who's literally made of sand and still kept fighting. Luffy's the type of guy that's faced a guy that was literally viewed as God. Luffy's the type of guy that's done this. Why? Because from day one, when he went onto that little dingy ship, he knew that's what he was going to do. He was that crazy that because of what Shanks said. He was that crazy that he still went like, okay, I'm still gonna do it. Like that is what all the other Straw Hats see when they look at Luffy, and when they see that, they're like, well, if he's that crazy, how crazy am I gonna be just to I want to find the all blue, like that's probably less crazy than whatever Luffy's gonna do. Oh, I want to be the world's greatest doctor. Oh, I want to make a map of the world. You know, it's like, yeah, that's probably not gonna get you into as much trouble as what Luffy has done. And Luffy knew from day one because of Shanks. So really, I give Shanks a lot of. Shanks is probably one of my, if not my favorite. Well, not my favorite, but one of my. He's probably top 10 of my like favorite One Piece characters. And it's mostly because of what he's done for Luffy. Keep in mind, Shanks hasn't done a lot. He's done almost nothing. But I love his character not just because he's a badass, but because of what that did. He knew, he was like, even though Luffy was like, I'm still gonna be king of the pirates, like he knew like what okay, I lost my arm, let's see what the kid says. Afterwards, Luffy's still like, I'm gonna be just as great of a pirate as you. Shanks was like, damn, this guy is actually serious. Like he knew he was like, if a 6-year old can see me lose my arm and still want that dream, he took this. He took this straw hat. He put it on his head and said, "Okay, bet. I'll see you then." Like he basically said, "Yeah, this this is your promise. I know you're dead serious, and I just want this back when you complete that dream. When you become just as great as me, and keep in mind, he wasn't a Yonko yet, but it wasn't like Shanks was gonna stop. He wasn't gonna be like, "Oh, I'm gonna make it easy for you. I'll just stop being a pirate roughly. Like I'll stop growing." He was like, "No, that's not gonna happen." He probably knew he was gonna be a Yonko. He probably knew Shanks. Shanks probably knew he was like, "I'll probably be a Yonko, and I'll be one hell of a beast." You know, like he's like, "I'm probably gonna be way stronger than I am now, and you think you're gonna be just as great." He was like, "You know what? I believe you. Here, this is proof. You know, me losing my arm was a test, and it was a huge risk, but I wanted to see if you were actually gonna stay committed. And then this is my gift for passing. This is my gift to you as thanks for not making me lose my arm for no reason." So it's like there's so much with Luffy, and then that's just Shanks. Like you also have Ace, you also have Sabo, you have Garp's form of parenting. You have a lot of things where it's like Luffy grows exponentially with every character we meet in One Piece, and it's crazy like how good how well done Oda has like made this story. Like he makes Luffy the center almost like subconsciously. Like he makes this like in a way where it's like every character that's brought in will somehow have an effect on Luffy. Like embrace his character even more. So I can't not put him number one in his own crew. Not just because, oh, he's the captain. Luffy could have just not been the captain somehow, but it's almost like unimaginable. You can't imagine Luffy had to have been the captain because of just how his character is written. It's just the way the story is written. It's ridiculous. So I'm like, I look at this list and I see it as like, with the position that everyone's in, granted, some things may change in the future, right? I may put Zoro in number three for whatever reason, right? I may put all these characters in whatever positions they will. But one thing I will never, ever change, it's impossible. Luffy will always be number one. Luffy will always be number one. Even in, I look at top 100 One Piece characters, I'm putting Luffy number one. I don't think if you don't put Luffy number one, I really want to see what your argument is. Like, put down in the comments, please. I really want to know what your opinion is. Like, if you weren't gonna put Luffy number one, who would you have put number one? And what's your argument as to how that even makes sense? Because to me, I look at it, and granted, I'm open. I'm completely open to hearing about it because I'm curious. I'm genuinely curious how other people see the story. But the way I see Luffy's whole progression, it's like you can't really. I don't see a logical way you could even think of putting anyone above Luffy. It doesn't make sense. So you can't have the Straw Hats without the Straw Hat Man himself. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this top 10. This went on for a really long time. This is probably going to be an hour long. I don't know why all my videos end up being this long. Like, I really should get to the point, but I kind of enjoy this, like the whole rant thing. I know like a lot of other people do a really better, like a much better job at like editing their stuff and everything. I kind of look at it as like I could edit my stuff. I want to edit and like make it look nice for you guys. I mean, it I could like I don't know, chop it up and make a cleaner argument, but I feel like for me, I'm more passionate when I'm just ranting like this, and I have more fun when I'm doing stuff like this. So, like doing stuff like this, like in this way. Um, so I really can't help it. I mean, but I feel like more comes out of me, and it's more genuine when I do it like this. Like when I'm scripting, I feel more like when I do it like this, I feel like I'm getting a load off my chest. You know what I mean? Like it just feels way better. So, and I feel like I've done more here. Like I've done more progress in terms of what my point was or my argument. I may not always have the clearest argument, but at least with this top 10, I think I made myself, while not everyone was put in with, you know, hours and hours of thought behind it, like Robin being where she was, Sanji being where she was, maybe where he was, excuse me, may have not been like the most thought out thing in the world. I still will keep them there. Regardless, I think overall this sums up how I feel about these characters in terms of ranking. Like who I look forward to the most to have a moment or to be included in the story or have a prominent role in the story. Um, I would love to hear what you guys think about it. I'd love to hear what you guys would put in terms of your listing of people you look forward to the most, your top 10, and if it's your top 10, how you rank your top 10. What your thought process is on all this and what you feel about One Piece in general. Like you might not be a huge One Piece fan, but you clicked on this and you're like, I wonder what this guy has to say about One Piece and maybe it can give me like some kind of idea as to what it's about. I'm gonna be honest, it's a long ass story. But I didn't have a whole lot of trouble getting into it because I mean, well, I got into it when I was like four, so I didn't have a whole lot. I mean, granted, at that point there was like 300. No, there was like 200 and like I think there was like 200 episodes or something. But yeah, if you guys want to discuss anything about One Piece and what I've said about this in terms of the Straw Hats and how you feel about them, and any other characters you want to talk about. Keep in mind, I didn't talk about any other characters like that could be possible Straw Hats, like Yamato or Momonosuke or I guess Carrot. I don't know if Carrot's still a possible candidate, but you know what I mean. Like I didn't talk about any of them, but I mean, the thing is, right? It's not fair because if I talked about them, I would have to talk about like the ones we theorized back in the day would have been one, right? Like there's so many, and it's just kind of like it becomes like okay, now it's not about the Straw Hats anymore. Like I just wanted to make it just about them. Plus, there's 10 of them. I was like, well, I mean, it's too easy not to just put them there. So if you guys want to talk about those though, put it down in the comments. We'll have a discussion, and I'll like explain my thought process on it. I will say though, one character I'm looking forward to and I'm hoping does join. I think Momonosuke has a higher likelihood, but I would love it if Yamato joined. I think Yamato is such a perfect fit, but that's a whole different discussion. So, if you guys want to discuss any of that, put it down in the comments. I'll respond. I'll have a lot of fun trying to have that discussion with you guys. And if you liked this kind of stuff and you want to see me do another top 10 or another One Piece related video, then um, hit the like button. Then I'll get to see it. Or if you want me to stop this and not make hour-long videos of rants about stuff you don't care about, then hit the dislike button. But if you want to keep up with all the One Piece stuff or any of the other top 10 stuff or any of my other videos, don't forget to subscribe and then hit that bell icon because then it'll show up right away and you won't have to worry about missing a single thing. So I'll see you guys next time. Take care and I'll see you guys later.